Hello everybody, welcome to another exciting day of winemaking. Here we have our Vino Italiano Riesling kit, and I've finished the clearing, and you can see it's way clearer. I could actually see through to the other side pretty easily, but there's still a couple of particles floating around in this wine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to rack from the 6-gallon carboy to that 5-gallon carboy. But I'm also going to filter that wine using the Vinbrite wine filter kit, and I'll put a link for that at the bottom of this page. Everything has been sterilized, and the way that this kit works is you have to soak the filter, which I'm doing right there, soaking the filter, and I'm going to put that filter pad into the filter kit and filter it as I'm racking it. Now, a lot of times what you would do is filter it, rack it first and then filter, but I'm going to try to do this all in one step. Okay, be right back. Alright, so one of the things I need to do first is assemble the filter. I've cleaned and sanitized all the parts here for this filter, and what I'm going to do is put it together. And what you need to do first is run a gallon of clean water through that filter first before filtering wine. So I have my parts to my filter here, and it's all been cleaned and sanitized. So one of the first things you do is you take your pad that you've been soaking and put it inside. The pad is wet now, it's been soaking, and it's inside. Okay. The next thing you do is you take this little screen seems like you need an extra hand every once in a while. Take a little screen and put it inside like that. Then you take this screw-on part, tighten that down like that, holds the filter in place, and you snap this bottom on. This here is a tube with a valve on it, which we're going to use when we start to transfer the water here, or the wine, into the carboy. But first we're going to need to set this up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tube and put it on top of the center hole, and I'm going to lay this flying saucer looking thing on top of the carboy. And then I'm going to take this skinny tube and shove it on the inside of this auto siphon. Now, most of the time you put a fatter tube on the outside of the auto siphon. For this one, you're going to put the skinny tube on the inside of the auto siphon. Get it in there really good, because you're going to need that to be in there really good. That's what you have. Okay, you put this in the bottle of water, and we're going to pump a gallon of this in first. Once the water starts to go through, you want to close that lock. I had it open in the beginning, this lock right here. I had it open in the beginning, going straight up and down, But when water comes up this tube, I want to close that lock. When you close the lock, the water will flow through. This water will start to flow through into the carboy. I'm going to let that whole gallon go through. I have a little stain from the sanitizing solution on the outside. Just want to clean up. So I'm going to let the water go through and flush out that filter. Now I have to tell you, everything has been cleaned with the Vinbrite solution. Every part of that filter has been cleaned. That bottle with the water in it has been cleaned. The auto siphon, tubing, everything is cleaned. You end up spending more time actually sanitizing and cleaning than you do with actual winemaking. Alright, so we're going to let that run all the way through. Then I'm going to dump out the water and we'll get started to transfer the wine. Alright, be right back. Alright, so I put the Vinbrite filter after flushing it on top of the carboy after I've dumped out the water that was in there. Got it ready to go. I got my carboy with the wine tilted back so I get the most wine out of it that I can, and I'm going to get started doing my transfer. Alright, so I'm going to set up this camera and we'll get started. Alright, we're ready to rock and roll. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to take this anti-sediment tip and put it on the end of my auto siphon. Very, very important step. Okay, I'm going to leave that sediment behind. I'm going to put the auto siphon in. I'm going to try really hard not to disturb the sediment on the bottom of the bottle. Okay. At this point, I'm opening the valve on that little tube on the top of the flying saucer Vinbrite looking filter, and I am going to start pumping. Get the wine going in, and as it starts to go in, I'm going to see wine start to come up to the tube, which you just did. And you're going to close it so that it doesn't start spilling all over the floor. And you're going to get yourself a paper towel to clean up where it just spilled. Anyhow, let me move this. And you can see the wine now is filtering through the Vinbrite filter. And again, most of the time I do reds, so you can see why I have a red towel, a red old towel I have at the bottom. And you can see the anti-sediment tap on the bottom of the auto siphon just hanging out. And we are filtering wine. One of the advantages of this filter as well is it will also complete any degassing that the wine still has in it. Okay, now one of the things you want to realize here is that you don't want to use this filter as a clearing device. It's not going to clear your wine. Your wine has to be pretty clear to begin with, from the racking, following good racking practices and so forth. You can see this wine here is pretty clear to begin with. This just puts the final polish on your wine. I would recommend doing this for white wines, and you can certainly do it for reds. I don't always do it because it is an extra step, but it will make your whites totally sparkle. And that's it. Now this process here is going to take a good half hour, depending on how clear your wine is to begin with. Sometimes I help it along by pumping the pump a little bit if it starts to slow up. But you're best off just letting it do its thing. One of the things you do want to monitor is we are transferring from a 6-gallon to a 5-gallon carboy. Now, they're not always exactly 6 gallons, they're not always exactly 5 gallons, so you want to make sure that you don't overflow when you get to the top. So you want to keep looking at it. You don't have to stare at it the whole half hour, but you want to come back in and you want to look at it to make sure that you're not overflowing or getting close. And if that's the case, you would shut it off and save your extra wine in some other bottle or other thing. That's one of the joys of making wine, is that you get to drink the extras. And we're just going to let that go. We'll check in a little bit. That's one other thing I just wanted to say, is that this filter is only about $40. There are much more expensive filters out there that work faster. They don't necessarily work better, but they work faster. That are electric pump type filters. Those are certainly great filters, but for someone who's just starting out making wine, you don't want to invest $200 in a filter for wine or more. The Vinbrite works perfectly well. It just takes a little bit longer to do your filtering. $40. The directions say for this Vinbrite filter not to use a sulfite solution with it, or a strong sulfite solution with it, because it could damage it. Alright, well, I'll be back in a little bit. You'll see it completely filtered. There's one thing I just wanted to show you really quickly. I'm going to try to zoom in on this and you can see the particles that are floating around. See if we can get a better focus on it. Okay. Let's look at the filter. You might see bubbles coming up, but it's certainly a whole lot more clear going through that filter. Yeah. Certainly a lot clearer. Those are bubbles that you see coming up. Alright. So I think it's doing a really great job, this filter. Certainly looks a whole lot clearer. Than this. Alright, see you in a little bit. Alright, and there we have it, it's finished. doing the filtering. And at this point, let's look at the clarity. You can see right through it to the floor, to the towel that I threw down. That is a very nice, clear wine. Now I tasted it, and it tastes really, really good, just a little dry. So I'm going to be back sweetening this, but I'm going to let it sit like this in the carboy for 2 weeks, a week first before back sweetening. So check back in a little bit, and we'll do the back sweetening. So thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my video channel here on YouTube, and check out my blog at www.cooking-italian-recipes.com for great Italian recipes, tips on organic gardening, winemaking, and herbalism, and all other kind of fun stuff that I'm into. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, tell your friends. Take care.